Welcome back, Hurricane fans. So, we are going to be discussing something that I think is what we're all kind of hung up on for this year. And I hear a lot of you guys talking about Emory Williams taking over the starting job at quarterback for the Hurricanes next year. I think something that we have to preface, I don't know why I have my remote in my hand, is I think we all have to expect a little bit of a drop off from this year to next year because we're not going to have a Cam Ward. Cam Ward carried our team this year. Next year, I mean, it needs to be a more complete team. That's how we're going to win next year. And that's what we're going to go to the transfer portal and all that. But I think it comes down to two QBs that the Miami Hurricanes need to see what they got. And obviously, number one is going to be Emory Williams. And number two, I was looking at a lot of the highlights. Fernando Mendoza, I think, is the second option. If you're going to go to the transfer portal, if you're not going to start Emory Williams, it has to be Mendoza. And I'll show you why. So you're going to see the highlights for both of these guys. So we'll start with Emory Williams. The one thing that he can be good. I don't think that he can't be. But there's a couple things that we need to look at, obviously, when you're watching these highlights. And I see a lot of you guys saying that Emory Williams is going to be the guy and all that stuff. He has some really good traits, but one thing that I tend to notice a lot with Emory Williams is, number one, the footwork is not there when it comes to, the quarterback footwork. If you watch him as you watch him right here, you'll see his footwork is very, weirdly all over the place. He's very jumpy when he's in the pocket. And number two, which is probably it would be the detrimental factor to me, is he stares down receivers a lot. When you watch his highlights, there's very few times that he moves off of his number one receiver that he's supposed to be targeting that play. And that kind of scares me a little bit because, when we're playing certain teams, they're going to key in on that. And, of course, when he comes in for a couple games, people don't have any scouting or anything on him that you can really teach in the film room. Yeah, you're going to be surprised by what he does, and they'll make up plays so that they can, support him doing his thing. But when you're the starting quarterback and they have film on you, they're going to start to see that he keys in on one receiver, and if he sees any sort of opening, that's when he throws it. And sometimes safeties can play you like that, where they make quarterbacks that stare down receivers, look at the opening and think that they are open, when in reality they're just looking at the quarterback waiting for them to throw. So when you watch his highlights, you're going to start to see a lot of the time he takes the ball, steps back, and he's just waiting for the receiver to get open. And that honestly is going to scare me a lot when it comes to having him as the starting quarterback. Because like I said, when you don't have film on a guy comes into the game, you don't really know what he does well or doesn't do well because you don't have a lot of tape. But when you're the starting quarterback for a team, that's when you start getting tape on someone. You start realizing what they do and their tendencies. So when you see this, like I said, the footwork, he's very jumpy, and he stares down receivers a lot. Now, what I do like about him, he is accurate. He has a decent throw. He gets the ball out pretty decently quick. But, like I said, let me turn down this jazz music, is he does stare down receivers. There's a lot of stuff that he has to work on. And, we've started him in games. It was against Clemson and I think FSU at one point. And it's been 2 years that Emory Williams has been on this team. And they've continued to try and get other quarterbacks to start over him. So we have to consider that also, again, some of the things that I'm seeing, maybe the coaching staff is seeing, and they're not comfortable putting him out there as a starting quarterback. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe this year he's worked on a lot of stuff. He goes through his reads. Because the thing is, when we talk about Cam Ward, we're going to be talking about Cam Ward for a very long time. Cam Ward had the best season a Miami Hurricanes quarterback has ever had in history. He lit it up this last year. So again, like I said, to preface, I think we all need to understand that we are going to not have the same type of offense that we had this year. Like with Cam Ward, it was just different. He brought such a different part to the game. And again, college quarterbacks, they're not going to be like Cam Ward. Cam Ward would go through 7 reads in 3 seconds. He would move around the pocket. This is, we're just not going to find that, a second year in a row. Cam Ward was just a different animal, and we have to. It's not a letdown. It's just more so that we have to build the team up so that it's not just on the quarterback, because we kind of failed Cam Ward. Everything else around the team sucked. It was Cam Ward in the offense that really was the only shining factor of this team. Like, let's be real. If we had Emory Williams as the quarterback this year, we would have probably been like 3-10. The defense was that bad. So, like I said, I like Emory Williams. A lot of you guys in the comments are saying Emory Williams, but I think there's some things that kind of scare me a little bit. Like I said, there's a difference between him coming in and having a couple throws. I think he's got like 470 yards and I think it's one touchdown since he came in, and whatever games that he came in to play. But like I said, there's a couple of key things that kind of scare me with the guy, where it just, the staring down of the receivers, that can go bad real quick. And having him as a starting quarterback, if he hasn't fixed that yet, is going to be very scary. Because like I said, throwing motion, all that stuff, that's cool. He's got that down. But the footwork, that's another thing where, as a quarterback, if you are jumpy with your footwork, you don't set right. You don't get your body set to launch the ball. And again, these are some things that I would say that he's had to work on. Now, of course, like I said, if he has worked on these things, then 100%, we got our starting quarterback. But again, he's been a backup for a couple years, and they haven't even tried to start him. They've tried to get somebody else. Now, of course, finding Cam Ward was a diamond in the rough. Like, you would have never thought you would have gotten something like that. But I think there's also something to say that we haven't tried to go to him yet, and it might be because there's some certain traits that, maybe the coach just doesn't feel comfortable with. Maybe he needs one more year, because if we're clearly targeting transfer portal quarterbacks, like we're bringing them in. Now, of course, it's the team and all that stuff, but we're clearly bringing them in. So the thing is what we have to consider is that they still don't feel comfortable starting Emory Williams at quarterback. He needs one more year to groom, which is perfectly acceptable. It's not a big deal to have him sit there for 2 or 3 years, and then his senior year, just like most Ohio State quarterbacks, you come out and you ball out like you're supposed to. So the quarterback that I think we made it. That the video, I had to put what is his name, Malik Murphy, as the thumbnail, because the guy that I really wanted got picked up right when I made the video, which was the dude from Tulane, which I was very disappointed. He went to Duke. I don't think we get Malik Murphy, but who I do think would be the only other option is Fernando Mendoza, and I'll tell you why. When you watch this guy play, he is a pure quarterback. He kind of, who does he remind me of? He kind of reminds me a little bit of like I don't really know. Like he's a little bit of a hybrid, because he's got like that Jared Goff type of stature. And I know it's weird to say Jared Goff because he went to Cal, but he's got much more of a pure quarterback feel to him, where when you look at him, when you watch him throw, you'll see the highlights right here. His release is super quick. Like, he gets the ball out quick. And when you see Emory Williams versus Fernando Mendoza, when they throw the ball, you see Emory Williams look very stiff, like he's guiding the ball when he throws it. His hand is like perfectly 90-degree angle. It doesn't look smooth. When you watch Fernando Mendoza, his release just looks so smooth. It looks like he's got the whole thing, ready to go right when he's going. His footwork is much better than Emory Williams. And this is the one thing that you can see with Mendoza, especially when we saw him against the University of Miami. Like, we probably should have lost that game if it weren't for Cam Ward. We just had the better quarterback, but not by much. He goes through his reads, and he constantly keeps his eye down the field. And this is why I'm really like, I wanted the guy from Tulane, because he also looks like a pure quarterback passer. And Fernando Mendoza is sneaky fast. Like, he doesn't look like he's supposed to be fast, but he's pretty fast, man. And when he takes off running, he gets some yardage. When you watch him play, like I said, Emory Williams, cool. He's a great. He looks like he will be a decent quarterback, But if you're going to the transfer portal and you want to bring someone where you think that you can go to the playoffs next year, based on the team that you have, Fernando Mendoza, when you watch him play, just looks like, I mean, I don't want to say similar because I think Cam Ward's a one of one. I think we'll never see that for a long time. But he looks very similar to Cam Ward. You know, he looks very similar when he's in the pocket, evading pressure. He looks similar, keeping his eyes down the field, and he's kind of sneaky fast, just like Cam Ward is. I would even say that he's faster than Cam Ward. You know, so when you see this guy, and two-star recruit, had to work for everything to get where he's at, and he's from Miami. When you see him play, again, you're in Cal. You know, I don't even know if there was a Cal receiver that is highly touted this year. I think it was just their running back that they had. I mean, he looked very good, and we can even, when you're watching the U game versus him, he was killing us. Like, he was really just like cutting us up the entire game. So I personally think, you know, depending on what Emory Williams wants to do, if he wants to stay, I say you groom him one more year. You go see if you can land Mendoza, because Mendoza right now is like kind of similar to Cam Ward. You know, he was a two-star recruit. Not a lot of people are touting him, even though he had a very good year. He had 3,000 yards, I think 16 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Wasn't the greatest year, but he had a really good year. I think if you bring him in similar to Cam Ward, where you have a guy that we all forget when Cam was at Washington State, he was known to turn the ball over. He was known to take too long. He was known to cause, you know, different things to hurt his team. So that's why not a lot of people were crazy over him. He had the talent, but he didn't hone it in like he did at the University of Miami. I think it could be a very similar situation with Fernando Mendoza, where he's got the talent. Like, you can look at him, he's got talent, and he's got that spunk, you know, that two-star, like, nobody recruited me type of spunk, that Baker Mayfield type of spunk, that if you bring him in here and you can hone in these traits, dude looks like a very good passing quarterback and sneaky fast. I think if you can land Fernando Mendoza, let Emory Williams sit for another year, let him groom another year, and watch another quarterback, you know, being able to go through his reads and all these different things, and you bring Fernando Mendoza in, because I think you can turn him into a really, really good quarterback and have another one going into the draft next year. Because he looks great, man. Like you said, like you see, like, watch the highlights right now. Dude looks really, really good. So I think that's what we do this year. I hope, because again, like, I wanted the Tulane guy. I just don't think that Emory Williams is ready yet. I think he stares down receivers way too much. His footwork is just not there, and I think you just need to get these things out of him for him to be a starting quarterback on the University of Miami. But as always, guys, all about the U. Love you all. Peace.